Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis. Almost here in March, and today I'm going to, I want to do kind of a few things. So the first thing that I'm going to do is check out this blooming Amethystoglossa, which you can see growing way up there behind me, and it's one of my favorites. It's one that I've gotten and shown here on this channel a bunch of times over the years. I got it from Poly Orchids. Sergio Garcia is the owner over there in California, and he has some really cool stuff, and this is one of them I got from him in 2013. I'm also going to do a quick look at my Cattleya Varsavixiai. I've been experimenting over the past couple years with a very dry dormancy, more dry than either my Walkerianas or Nobilioras, and it seems to do just fine. So I'm going to see how that influences its blooming. Last year it didn't seem to do anything, but this year I gave it an even harder dormancy, so we'll see if that does anything. Then finally, I have a plant here in front of me that you can't see. It is a gigantic Schomburgkia hybrid. Of course, Schomburgkia is a genus that no longer exists, but it's still fresh in the minds of most folks who grow Cattleyas and their allies. So I will tell you, I'll take a look at the tag. I forget the name. It comes from Louisiana. My friend Frank gave it to me some years ago, and it's time to divide. It's gigantic. So I'm just going to quickly show you what I plan to do with that when I get back to my house, not necessarily here at Gene's greenhouse. So anyway, let's turn this camera around. Take a look at an Amethystoglossa, take a look at a Varsavixiai, and take a look at a Schomburgkia hybrid. This is the Cattleya Lotigizii that I showed you a little while ago. Still in full bloom. And then here's the Amethystoglossa. Just one of my favorites. Let's see if I can get around back side here so that the sun isn't making these look all faded. Sun's behind some clouds right now and just peeking out, so this should be pretty good light to film this. But yeah, I think you can see why this is a favorite of mine. This just glows. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but there's a very hint of some yellow in the background. Of course, you can see pretty deep yellow there in the around on the interior of the lip and the column. Excuse me, the side lobes surrounding the column. The lip itself is like hard plastic. It almost looks like there's some flammea or some type of peloria going on the petals here, but that might just be an interesting pattern that kind of replicates that, or that could be a light flammea type. Let's see if we can get a good shot of this one. I like this particular breeding, this Brazilian breeding, over some of the what I call the Florida breeding. It seems like the Brazilian breeding and the lines that come from H&R orchids over there in Hawaii have these really distinctive spots, and they have a very clear defined start and stop, which I really like. I find that the Florida breeders seem to have these big almost blotches that kind of merge with each other, and I don't find those quite as attractive. But yeah, this is a nice one. If I zoom out a bit, you can see the size of my plant compared to my hand here. So the leaves are about as long as my hand. Some of the larger ones are even bigger. Had a little sunburn last summer, but these are tough plants. You can see this sort of jungle of bulbs or canes down here, and you can even see some additional flowers tucked in the back there with it's interesting, these ones are a little more shaded, so they have a little more pink color to them than the ones that I just showed you, and then there's still a few buds on these smaller back bulbs. I find this is a species that grows all year round. It is reported to have a winter rest, but I've found that this species, along with most of the bifoliates, will just keep growing if you keep watering them. They seem pretty opportunistic in how they grow. Their bloom times, Amethystoglossa bloom times, are pretty defined, and they're going to happen the same time, early spring, late winter. They happen around the same time every year, but the growth, I mean, they don't stop growing for me at all during any point of the year because I keep hitting them with water. So I would encourage all of you to do the same. So the next thing is this Schomburgkia hybrid that is in the active phase of jumping past its pot. So you can see all these roots. This is one where the new roots come out after the pseudobulb has matured. And you can see all these roots coming out here. So this is probably a week or two past where I would have preferred to repot. But, it is what it is. Some of the older roots from the same growth are actively growing as well. So hopefully, when I cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the front, probably 3 or 4 leads off and put them in a separate pot and leave the back bulbs over here. And I guess I'll probably end up selling one of these divisions. I'm not sure which one. And as you can tell by the sheer size of this thing, I'm not going to ship it. So if any of the local folks watching want a cutting of this, here's a photo of the flower. And I posted the name earlier. There's a spike coming out here. So these spikes get pretty long, like you can't see my hand here. I'm making the motion for, like a 3-foot long spike. And the flowers, like I showed earlier, are really nice. So I'm expecting, I think it's an unawardable one, but I just need to get it under control, get it back in its pot, and carry on. Finally, here is my Varsavixiai. This is a plant that I got from Sunset Valley Orchids many years ago. And you can see that it is SVO by Bedford. This flower, as you can see here, looks almost entirely like Bedford. So it seems to have really taken that Bedford bloom. It's in that it's got a small flower, especially for the species. It doesn't have a whole lot of blooms on a single spike, which is unfortunate. But it's a compact plant. It grows like a typical Varsavixiai. So it puts out, starts a new growth, which you can see here. I don't know, maybe a month or so ago. It grows a lot in the same schedule that you'll see William Green's Cattleya rexes growing. So I am giving this one a pretty harsh dormancy in that I don't water at all, really, for months on end. Just not necessarily because that's what it gets in habitat, but I just want to see how I like to push my plant limits and see what they can take. And look at these bulbs. I mean, they're barely shriveled at all. So this species handles dormancy way better. And according to Art Chadwick, if you wait till the new growth is about 4 inches long before you start watering, and you give it a harsh winter rest, that he says really improves the blooming. So last year I tried it, but I moved 3 times last year, so I don't know how good of a care this particular plant, or all of my plants really, was receiving. So this will be the first winter dormancy or winter period where I've given it a harsh rest, and then I can see what the results will be on the blooms, which shall come, my memory tells me, like June or July. So yeah, today will be the first time that I water this in a long time, at least intentionally. I think I hit it with water by accident once or twice over the winter, but that's it. Anyway, I will keep all of you informed on what happens with this plant and, of course, all my others. And I hope you have a great weekend. See ya.